I'm going to give you a test right now, 3 levels. And when it's over, you'll know exactly how your brain processes a decision that most people believe they'll never have to make. Pay attention to the scenario. A building is on fire. You've made it to the hallway on the 2nd floor. There are 2 rooms. You only have time to enter one. In the room on the left, there's a 6-year-old child. In the room on the right, there's a 52-year-old scientist who is 3 months away from publishing a vaccine that could save 200,000 lives. You have 10 seconds. Which room do you enter? Count the time. The answer that came first is the one that matters. Not the one you thought of afterward. Not the one you wish you'd given. The first one. If you chose the child, you're part of 94% of people. Your brain followed the most primitive biological pattern that exists. Protect the youngest, the most vulnerable, the one who hasn't lived yet. It's instinct for species preservation. It's automatic. It's predictable. And that's exactly why manipulators build narratives around children when they want to guarantee your compliance. All it takes is putting a child at the center of a story, and your brain stops calculating. It only feels. And whoever only feels doesn't decide. They get decided for. If you chose the scientist, you're in the 6% group. Your brain made a pure utilitarian calculation. 1 life versus 200,000. The math was simple and you followed it. That doesn't make you cold, but it reveals that your decision-making system can switch off the emotional instinct when logic points in a different direction. This capacity has a name in psychology, and that name appears frequently in the profiles of very successful people, and also in the profiles of very dangerous ones. If you froze and couldn't choose, you have what Haidt calls an active empathic brake at an elevated level. You felt the weight of both lives with equal intensity. That's rare. And it's also the profile manipulators exploit most easily, because paralysis in the face of difficult choices makes you vulnerable to whoever decides for you. When you can't choose, someone always chooses in your place, and that person rarely has your interests in mind. Now the 2nd level. And here the scenario changes by just one detail. One detail that will change everything. The same building, the same fire, the same hallway. But now in the room on the left, there's no unknown child. It's your child. And in the room on the right, there's no unknown scientist. It's your mother. 10 seconds. Who do you save? Compare that answer to the previous one. Did it change? If it changed, you just discovered something disturbing about the difference between what you believe you value and what you actually value when the decision is personal. In the first scenario, you thought like a rational human being evaluating lives in the abstract. In the second, your brain switched off any abstraction and went straight to the bond. This is called affective proximity bias. And it operates in all your decisions, not just the ones involving fire and hallways. It operates when you defend someone you love even knowing they were wrong. When you ignore warning signs in relationships because the bond is too strong. When you take sides without hearing the other side because one of the sides is yours. You don't realize you're doing it. It feels like judgment. It feels like loyalty. But it's bias operating in place of reason. If it didn't change, if you applied the same criterion in both situations, you have a level of affective dissociation that most people can't sustain, even in theory. You can evaluate the people you love with the same weight you give strangers. That can be strength. It can be something that deserves attention. Because the line between equanimity and emotional coldness is thinner than it seems. And now think about how long it took you to answer the second scenario compared to the first. If it took longer, your emotional system came into conflict with your rational system. If it took less time, the bond had already decided before the question finished. In both cases, the time you took revealed which system is in control when pressure arrives. And that system is the same one that operates in the most important decisions of your real life. Not just in imaginary fires. 3rd level. And here, I'm not giving you options, the same building. But now you've already entered one of the rooms and saved the person who was there. You're both in the hallway. The fire is spreading. The exit is blocked. A window appears. Only one person can get through at a time. And there isn't enough time for both of you. I'm not going to ask you what you would do. I'm going to ask you what went through your mind the moment you read that situation for the first time. Was it a thought about the other person, or was it a calculation about yourself? Because what the neuroscience of moral behavior discovered, and what Joshua Greene documented over more than a decade of research with magnetic resonance imaging, is that when facing dilemmas where survival itself is at stake, the human brain activates completely different regions from those it uses in abstract dilemmas. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for moral reasoning, takes a back seat. What takes over is the limbic system, pure instinct, pure survival. And the survival instinct has no ethics. This means that the person who answered the first two scenarios with generosity, with careful calculation, with empathic hesitation, may not be the same person who acts in the third. Because in the third, there's no time to be who you want to be. There's only time to be who you are. And who you are in that moment is determined by things you never consciously chose. How much you were taught to put yourself first. How much you learned that surviving, it justifies anything. How much you internalize that your life is worth more than another person's without ever having to declare that out loud. Now put the three scenarios together. In the first, you chose based on instinct or calculation. In the second, you discovered how much the bond distorts your judgment. In the third, your first thought revealed what happens when pressure is maximum and time is zero. Those three moments together form a map of how your brain functions when there's no time to be the person you want to be, when there's only the person you are. And here's what nobody wants to hear. There's no right answer in these scenarios. What exists is your answer. And your answer reveals the weight you assign to each thing, each person, each value you claim to have. Not the weight you declare in conversations, the real weight. The one that appears when time is 10 seconds and the fire is coming. Most people go their entire lives without knowing what that weight is, without having to confront the distance between who they believe they are and who they actually are when the hallway is in flames. They make decisions every day believing they know who they are, believing that in extreme situations they would act with nobility, with courage, with altruism. You just discovered that this belief is comfortable but not guaranteed. Because between who you believe you are and who you are when the fire arrives, there's a distance that most people never measure. You measured it just now. And if what you saw disturbed you, it's because you still have enough honesty to face what the test revealed.